So Prop R is a city council initiated ballot proposal. Prop R, now that it passes, compels the Detroit City Council to establish a reparations task force that will make recommendations for housing and economic development programs that address historical discrimination against Detroit's Black community. This is wonderful because this is an indication from voters of the city of Detroit that they are in support of such an initiative. Why I say that is because City Council actually had the ability to create this task force without even putting this question on the ballot. So they did so to gauge the interest of residents and to really show the kind of public support that there is for such an initiative. And let me pull up the numbers again. This proposal passed overwhelmingly. Actually, more people voted on Proposal R than they even did for the mayor. And it passed with 80% of the vote.
I retired from City Council about 10 years ago, 2010. I didn't run anymore. And I'm very upset what I see now. I see malaise. I see that my people don't seem to care that we've lost the city that Mayor Coleman Young rebuilt. And now they've got condos being built in Old Black Bottom and Paradise Valley that cost $800,000 and $900,000 to move in. And I don't know any of my people who could get a mortgage. I can't get a mortgage for $800,000.
The point is that people carry guns. They think for protection, but in reality, all they're doing is sending themselves to the penitentiary.
This information is, I can't even believe it.
Even though if you're transported, it has to be in a locked box in the trunk. The doggone ammunition has to be separate. If you don't have a permit to carry, can't be in the car, doesn't matter where it is. I mean, and so many people get, even a minister, another client. You as a mom, let's say if you're a mom, you find a gun in your son's room. Well, you can't turn it in yet because I don't have the program yet. But anyway, so you give it to the minister, father, Reverend, can you take, I don't want my son to have this. He's going home that evening, gets stopped for a traffic violation. They search the car. That's the other thing. Never consent to a search of your car. Never, never, never. But they have an absolute right to search it if, in fact, you don't have a legal license because they're going to impound the car.
Hello, everyone. You are with Urban Interest, and I am your host, Angela Matthews. We had a beautiful weekend heading into a gorgeous week. Did you set your clocks back? If not, you may want to do that, or you just may want to be an hour early for wherever you need to go. That's not a bad thing. Listen, we have some great stories, have a great story for you. We're going to talk about that story with Ahmaud Arbery and that jury that was selected. 11 whites and 1 Black juror that was selected in the Ahmaud Arbery case. And then we'll come back and we'll have some dialogue about the election. It's still important. That's still an important conversation. So listen, stay put. We will be right back with that story as well as our guest.
Movies, documentaries, TV shows, local, national, world news, history, and culture. No network can tell your story better than UIN because we are you. With us, you can become more than just a consumer. You become a keeper of the culture and empowered. Go to uintv.net, click on a channel to support and subscribe today. Do it now.
All right, let's get to this very important story. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who is representing the family of Ahmaud Arbery, the young man that was killed by 3 white men in Georgia. says that the jury in the murder case is a blatant example of discrimination. Given the fact that there's only one Black juror that was chosen or selected to hear the case, one Black person, and the rest of the jurors are white, the remaining 12. And so also the alternates are white as well. So Attorney Crump is not alone in his assessment. Even the judge, get this, even the judge in this particular case expressed some misgivings in the regards to the jury, but says that the court will not do anything about it. How is it that the judge can say that this case, the jurors in this, is a blatant example of discrimination, and though I'm paraphrasing, but yet he's not going to do anything about it, but he has the power to do something about it? Let's take a look.
This court has found that there appears to be intentional discrimination in the panel. Quite a few African-American jurors were excused through preemptory strikes exercised by the defense. But that doesn't mean that the court has the authority to reseat, and the court is not going to place upon the defendants a finding that they are being disingenuous to the court or otherwise are not being truthful with the court when it comes to their reasons for striking these jurors.
Come on now, the judge just said intentional discrimination, intentional. So how is it that he can say this and still allow those who were chosen, the all white, basically it's an all white jury, setting it up for these men to get exonerated from murder? That's my opinion. I am really livid about this. So Attorney Crump, when asked about the judge's comments, had this to say. Let's take a look.
This is not a jury of Ahmaud Arbery's peers. And when you think about the fact that Brunswick, the city that is the county seat, is 55% African American, the largest county, the largest city in the county, and the fact that the county itself is almost 30%, it is outrageous that all the Black jurors, prospective jurors, were stricken on, we believe, pretextual reasons. You can't have intentional discrimination and then the court sit idly by and say there's nothing that we can do. That's how you get the outcomes that we have gotten historically to make Black people not trust the justice system.
You know what? I am so sick and tired of this. It's right in our face, this blatant discrimination as well as racism. So they have set this case up. It doesn't take rocket science. I'm not a lawyer, but I can see the writing on the wall, setting this case up for these men to get away with murder when there's intentional discrimination. Crump went on to say that even the process of selecting the jury was out of the norm.
They gave the defendants 24 strikes. That is unheard of. Normally you get 3 strikes per party. So at most they should have had 9 strikes, but to get 24 and for them to be able to use those strikes systematically and strategically to exclude Black people is problematic. So the court has to take, in my view, whatever measure it needs to take to make sure that there is a jury that won't favor one side or the other. And here we go into this thinking that the jury is stacked against justice for Ahmaud Arbery.
My heart is just broken. I know that I'm supposed to be objective, but it's hard to just sit in a neutral position and hear this blatant discrimination and racism, and for the jury to already be stacked against what's known to be true. We saw the video, we heard it. These white racist men went charging to kill a Black man. Actually, they want to say the N-word, but I'm not going to say the N-word. I am livid right now. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk to our good friend, Attorney Linda Bernard. We're going to talk about the election, and we may even talk a little bit about this atrocious, blatant racism in our face in the judicial system. So stay put.
911, what's your emergency?
Oh my God! A child just died!
13 involving a child, the medicine route.
It is time. Time to put the guns down. We've had enough. My future.
My future.
My future. Our futures are in your hands.
Adults, put the guns down.
Wanna play? Sleep.
Walk to school.
Visit my friends. I want to feel safe.
It's time.
Time to end gun violence.
Our lives depend on it.
Adults, this is not a request.
We demand that you protect us.
Put the guns down. We have hope. Dreams.
Goals.
Don't let a split second of anger with someone else take away my entire lifetime.
Help us live. Help us thrive.
Help us build a better future.
All right, everyone. Our good friend, Attorney Linda Bernard, is here to talk with us this morning with regards to the election. Attorney Bernard is licensed in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and the District of Columbia, as well as the U.S. Supreme Court and numerous other federal court systems. Attorney Bernard is the only African-American attorney to argue and win 3 presidential cases, not presidential, but precedented cases in the Michigan Supreme Court. And she is the only attorney on the Board of Police Commissioners. Come on in here, my good friend, Miss Linda.
It's good to see you, Angela. I'm sorry I have an eye infection, so I look terrible, but that's
No,
good.
you are fine. You are great. Good to have you here with us. How are you feeling? You feeling okay?
But, I feel great. I'm very happy about the re-election. I want to thank everyone who voted for me, especially obviously here in Detroit, and everyone who supported me outstate like you, Angela. You were absolutely key. Thank you so very, very much.
Well, you know, you are definitely key to bringing us some transparency from the judicial arena, because you are a well-respected and well-known attorney. And as I said, you gotta have it going on to be licensed in more states than Michigan. And with the Supreme Court. So we do truly appreciate you. Before we get into the questions with regards to the election, I just want to ask you about your take on the jury that was selected in the Ahmaud Arbery case. All of them that was selected were white, with the exception to one. And the judge says that basically he saw the intentional discrimination with regards to the selection. All of the Blacks that were, not, for whatever reason, were not selected. And then he says, but there's nothing that can be done about it from, where he sits. Is that true?
That's absolutely false. But more importantly, I don't know why we're talking about it, because defense counsel should have taken up an immediate appeal. There should have been a stay in these proceedings and an appeal to the Court of Appeals. He's absolutely wrong. His ruling would have been struck down. You don't have to proceed with a ruling like that. I'm not sure exactly what's happening with the case, with why the federal government hasn't gotten involved. I mean, this kind of thing happens. It certainly would have happened with George Floyd had Keith Ellison not taken the power away from the local prosecutor in Minneapolis and taken it to the state level through the Attorney General's office, because the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer in the state. So the Attorney General can always preempt a local prosecutor, local court hearing in that sense of the word. But beyond that, he had a right to an immediate appeal. And he probably, I I'm just flabbergasted that they're going to proceed like this, because I certainly would not, because the judge has already told you what he's going to do. I mean, it appears that his bias is great. He's going to look out for his good old boys. I got that part. I understand that. But there is a power higher than you. And you keep appealing and appealing until that happens. Let them sit in jail. They're probably out on bond anyway. Are they on bond?
You know, I hadn't even been up to date on the story until recently with this particular atrocious statement from the judge, and it just has me so upset, because it's just not right. It's not fair. And you know, we get sick and tired of situations like this right in our face, you know, always fighting for just rightness and fairness. And here this situation is, and a judge says it out of his mouth that, oh, I can't do anything about it and we will proceed, but it is intentional discrimination. Come on now.
They need to take it up. You need to take it up immediately.
Trump needs to stop just talking and do something. I'm tired of him being on the tube. Do something. Do something. You can do something. You know it's unfair, so dang it, do something.
I don't think there are any demonstrations in his community regarding this killing. I think, you know, the higher the profile on the case, the more the community is involved. Of course, the more judges know that people are really looking at them. And if we're going to be quiet on this, then of course it'll just be shoved under the rug, which is a problem, which is what you're saying. And I agree with you in terms of your outrage and in terms of your indignation, in terms of your disappointment in our judicial system, that this could even happen. If he's doing this to Ahmaud Arbery in a case this high profile, imagine what he's done to others. Just think about how his bias and prejudice and racism has contorted other cases which don't have a television camera in the room. That's the bad part. All of his decisions need to be looked at, and his decision to allow this jury to be seated needs to be immediately appealed. So maybe we can get some sense out of what's going on and hold everybody accountable. The other thing is, are judges elected there or are they appointed? You know, there's a lot of ways to approach this issue, as you just did in the court of public opinion, and then of course through the judicial system itself.
This is crazy. I can only imagine what the family has spoken out, and there has been some news coverage that, you know, definitely it's unfair. Definitely they're disappointed in this jury selection, because you can't even tell me that someone sitting on this case has not been impacted by the news and what has happened, the videos that have been shown. You can't tell me. And so they want us to believe that 11 white jurors can sit and be objective?
No, technically speaking, perhaps they could. That's not the issue. The issue is not what they could all be, you know, kin to our Lord Jesus Christ. That's not the issue. The issue is the discrimination in the process. I mean, I'm not even at the point where they are per se racist. I'm at the process level, and it's the process that's messed up. And the interesting thing about what you said about the video is that they hunted him like a dog, like they were hunting an animal. I mean, for a couple of miles or more than a mile and so forth, they hunted him, pulled over, they hunted him like you would hunt an animal, because that's what they think about us. You know, I'm gonna catch me a nigga today.
Woo. You said it, 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 and it's okay, because you can say that.
Right.
Listen.
That is their thinking. Yeah. And had there been any, you know, if they had any device that was recording them, that's exactly what they were saying. I'm sure of it. And so are you.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's get to your victory. Congratulations on your win. And let's get to another, something a little more joyful. And so we're glad that you were reelected. Obviously, your constituency saw that there was a need of you to be on this board with the work that you had done previously and what you still plan to do now and in the near future. So what's the greatest challenges, Attorney Bernard, that's facing this board now that the election has passed?
Well, the most immediate challenge, of course, is what always happens when you have a lame duck board. They try to pack in their ideas, their philosophy, the way they want to see things done before they leave. You know how that works. So that's the most immediate challenge. The real challenges that'll be facing us in January relate to, of course, we'll have several new board members, I think 4. And, sort of getting, none of them have any experience in this area or are lawyers or have any knowledge of police or police operations, but getting them up to speed on what's happening, on the importance of our role and what we're supposed to do. So that's going to be an immediate challenge. My challenge is to try to get forth push forward the agenda that I have, Angela. And one of the key things first of all, union contracts are coming up with the union, with the both police units, unions, pardon me, lieutenants and sergeants, and then of course DPOA, the Detroit Police Officer Association. So union contracts are coming up. So one of the things that I'd like to address in the union contract process is the fact that officers who are convicted of a crime while they are an officer, acting as an officer, not acting as a private citizen or whatever, are not eligible for promotion. It has been very distressing to me that the officer who we all saw on TV do a beat down on a woman in a hospital gown in a hospital was subsequently promoted. After his conviction. Now, in all fairness, his conviction has been appealed now. So, and he's going to get a new trial, but that has nothing to do with it. The action of the department to promote him to a sergeant while those proceedings were going on, and even after his conviction, was outrageous to me. So I want to make some changes in the collective bargaining agreement. One of the key things, of course, in Detroit is the issue of compensation for officers. We're losing officers because the suburbs, but they have much smaller departments, much smaller areas. We have 144 square miles in Detroit. They pay more than we pay. And we are training officers we're certifying officers under MCOs, and then they're going straight out to Warren and everywhere else they want to go. So that's a problem. So we've got to do something about compensation. But my pet project is a gun buyback program. I really want to do, and I'm going to ask you for a favor. While I was waiting for you, I watched a baby commercial on kids talking about put the guns down. I really would like if you could share that with me. It's going to be key to me getting corporations and industry willing to put money into a fund where I can just buy people's guns. If $250, no questions asked, no facial recognition, no nothing. You could just put a hood on. You could put on a Halloween mask, turn in the gun, get the $250, and I'll pay you $1 per bullet. Now, for those bigger guns that are more dangerous, I want to pay even more.
Wow, Attorney Bernard, that is an out of the box thinking forward move. $250, no questions asked.
No question.
Then $1 per bullet. Oh my goodness. My goodness.
Because the old way of looking at law enforcement was, let's lock them up and throw away the key. But as I've told you before, I believe in what Reverend Jesse Jackson says. And I'm not trying to contribute to the All Black Male Academy, which is Jackson Prison. I don't want our community to go to jail and be fodder for that.
All right, we got a little bit.
I want to, and see, once you have a gun and you don't have a permit, it's an automatic 2 years. Let me give you one example, if you don't mind. I was talking to a police officer the other day. She was saying this summer, a lady officer, a guy, open carry is the law in Michigan. You and I your dress is pretty. You can strap a gun on and walk everywhere. But the minute you put on your jacket, in this instance, the guy was walking around on this downtown with the open carry. He had a t-shirt on, gun on top of the t-shirt. He got on a bus. He pulled the t-shirt out and put it over the gun. The police immediately pulled over the bus and arrested him for carrying a concealed weapon. So if you get in a car with a weapon, if you put a jacket on because you're cold, anything. Open carry no longer applies. So he is going to jail for 2 years and will have a felony conviction for a firearm. So that's the problem as I see it. So I don't want that to happen. So many people just carry, men and women. I had a woman that was 9 months pregnant. She moved up here from Kentucky during the time when COVID was really bad. She was going to her job, her last week working before she was going to have the baby at 7 a.m. She had a gun in her glove compartment. The police pulled her over. They said that the light on her license plate was out, which is, okay. Anyway, so they pulled her over. She's telling the officer on the left, I have a gun. I'm from Kentucky. Your offices have been closed here. I haven't been able to get a new CCW here. Just a conversation. No previous record or anything. The officer on the right, she opens the glove compartment. She tells this officer, there's a gun in my glove compartment. That's where my registration is. And he starts going crazy. Gun, gun, gun. Of course, they arrest her. She stays in detention from 7:30 in the morning to 10:30 at night with no water. So the baby's dehydrated, she's dehydrated, all these kind of things. Only when a state rep called me did I get involved, because I didn't know about it, and get her released and have her taken to the hospital right away. My point is that people carry guns. They think for protection, but in reality, all they're doing is sending themselves to the penitentiary.
This information is, I can't even believe.
Even though if you're transported, it has to be in a locked box in the trunk. The doggone ammunition has to be separate. If you don't have a permit to carry, can't be in the car, doesn't matter where it is. I mean, and so many people get, even a minister, another client. You as a mom, let's say if you're a mom, you find a gun in your son's room. Well, you can't turn it in yet because I don't have the program yet. But anyway, so you give it to the minister, father, reverend, can you take, I don't want my son to have this. He's going home that evening, gets stopped for a traffic violation. They search the car. That's the other thing. Never consent to a search of your car. Never, never, never. But they have an absolute right to search it if in fact you don't have a legal license, because they're going to impound the car. Anything they impound, they can search. So anyway, he gets arrested for CCW because he's trying to take the gun to the police that his parishioner gave him. This is serious business. Guns are serious.
So what are the plans? Well, there was one plan, you say, to alleviate some of these issues, like you said, the gun buyback program. The other plan is that to educate people with regards to what it means when you get a charge of carrying a concealed weapon. That was a very good example. As long as I have the gun that can be visibly seen and have a permit, I think that's okay.
You have to have a permit for open carry.
What was that?
Carry, if you have on a tank top and a gun, you're okay.
Okay.
If you need to put a t-shirt on,
it's concealed.
Or you put on it, or you get in a car. You can't ride in a car with one. So how are you going to get from, unless you're walking or on, I've seen people on motorcycles with it on their hip because it's open carry. They can ride because it's on a motor, but in a car, you're totally concealed.
Yeah. But all of these small tidbits that people don't know about, that they need to know about, because it is the deciding factor between whether you get arrested or not, charged or not, and what that charge is. So thank you. Just that small tidbit of what you said just enlightened me so much, because I didn't know. And that's good. Now, the Detroit Police Department hasn't been in the headlines lately, but with the rising crime and the new police chief, what are the biggest concerns for the Detroit Police Department?
Actually, the biggest concern has been crime, but again, it's all mostly gun-related crime. Burglaries are way down. There's been a slight uptick in sex crimes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the crime as you would think. It's not a violent rape. If you grab someone's behind, how guys used to do in high school and stuff, that's criminal sexual conduct in the second degree. That's a felony, and that makes you have to register as a sex offender. So I try to look at the facts for crimes, not just the charge. because some, obviously, many factual situations are far more egregious than others. But no, the issue, of course, is crime. And Chief James White is doing an excellent job. Incidentally, Angela, he has a degree in mental health counseling. So he looks at crime in terms of choices and in terms of the reasons for crime, which is so refreshing to me, because he and I are on the same page like that. It's not just the what, it's the why. And he looks to the why and tries to influence people to not get even to the what, make different choices, handle this situation differently, etc. So he's a really good chief, and his team is excellent. Bettison and the Valley, all of those guys are wonderful. Mm-hmm. And you'll see, and he tries to de-escalate situations. He's not for, all of that, I'm gonna beat you up or abuse you, or use of force issues. Those kind of issues he's very sensitive to.
Wow, that's good. That's refreshing.
He's on the police, trust me.
That's refreshing. That's refreshing to hear. And I can only imagine that the citizens are noticing this different perspective with regards to policing. So got a couple more questions for you, and then I know I'll let you go because you're so busy, but we appreciate you. I always appreciate you coming. What is the most conflicting issue between citizens and police officers right about now? We still have that non-trust situation that's happening because of what you just described, those couple of incidences. So what now for citizens and police officers?
Well, all citizens have a right to file a complaint with respect to police issues. They can file it online, they can file it by telephone, or they can go into our office over near Palmer Park. All complaints are thoroughly investigated. The first thing that we do is look at body cam and dash cam footage, because that usually tells the story more than anything. So we have to deal with it, factually. Most complaints, Angela, relate to demeanor. And they're not, we don't have a lot of use of force complaint, but it relates to demeanor. People feel that they've been disrespected, or feel that the police conducted themselves inappropriately. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes the way that police conducted themselves is consistent with policy. But one of the policies that's most important is that when a citizen is stopped by a police officer, they're supposed to have their body cam on. Because as you and I both know, just like with the Arbery case, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. We would never know about what happened to Arbery if it wasn't for the video. So the first thing that our investigators look for is the video evidence to see what exactly the officer did and what exactly is the nature of the citizen's complaint. Many of those complaints are dismissed because they're not sustained, because there was no violation of policy or anything like that. But we are now tracking very carefully every complaint against every officer. And trying to get, in some instances, you will have a profile of an officer. Every person that's filed a complaint has been Black. Every Black person has said the same thing. And so now we're looking, that's another thing that we're going to address in the collective bargaining unit, is this ability to discipline officers based on complaints. So, yeah, so this is one of the primary things that we're doing now.
Well, Attorney Linda Bernard, thank you so much for being with us this morning and talking about this particular situation, citizens and police officers, and the role of, the commissioners is a very important role. I'm so glad that you are on this board and that you bring your expertise as well as your credentials to help others to see this from a different perspective. We definitely going to come back and talk with you to see what headway has been made, and we will get in touch with you about that video with the kids that you mentioned.
I definitely need that. I'm going to use that as part of my campaign for corporate support.
All right. Listen, our good friend, Attorney Linda Bernard, she is a well-respected attorney all across this state, even with the Supreme Court. So if you want to get in touch with her, how do they get in touch with you, Attorney Bernard, before we let you go?
Oh, you can contact me directly through the Board of Police Commissioners. It's Linda.Bernard@BOPC Detroit.
All right. Have a great day, my dear.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us and giving us some of your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. All right, listen, everyone, we are going to still talk about the elections. We're going to have another guest with us. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll continue to talk about the elections, especially that in Detroit, because it was very important. Those proposals that were on the ballot, very important. What, which ones got the support, which ones didn't, and why. So stay put. All right, you are still with us, Urban Interest, and we are still talking about the election. Now, we're going to bring a young man with us who has some knowledge about these proposals. You've heard about proposal ERS. What is that? What do they mean? They were on the ballots. What passed? What didn't? We have Esmat Ishaq Osman with us. Yes. And he is the Research Council's expert on policy matters related to Detroit affairs. He joined the Citizens Research Council in 2021 after completing his PhD. I need to be calling you doctor, come on. In political science from Wayne State University. And before joining the Citizens Research Council, Esmat worked as a research assistant with the Political Science Department and the Center for Urban Studies at Wayne State University. Dr. Osman, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Angela?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Dr. Osman because you deserve that honor. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Now you're doing it. You step right into this important work. I mean, boom, here you are, this election that just happened. First of all, tell us about the Citizens Research Council before we get into conversation about these proposals.
Absolutely. So the Citizens Research Council of Michigan is a statewide, nonpartisan, private, not-for-profit. We were founded in 1916, and we actually started off as the Detroit Bureau at the Citizens Research Council. So we started in the city of Detroit. Our work and our mission focuses on promoting sound policy for state and local governments through factual research. And we really pride ourselves in making a point to provide accurate, independent, and objective research. So we have a small team, but a phenomenal team of research associates that focus on various issues throughout the state, whether it be local affairs or state finance or education and education funding. So I am the research associate that focuses on the city of Detroit. So any sort of policy and government related research that is specific to the city and how that may also relate to the rest of the state, that is my wheelhouse. So please check out our work to see our reports and to see our blogs and podcasts at www.crcmich.org. And more specifically, if you want to see work pertaining specific to Detroit, you can find that as well at www.crcmich.org/Detroit-Bureau. Okay. And so, yeah.
Wow. Did you say 1916, Dr.
1916, yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So do many people know? I would imagine that they do. And I have not been privy to this information with regards to the formation of the Citizen Research Council from 1916. So thank you for being with us today. I mean, there are many groups that come on, with research that they do. We've got polls, analysis, and elections and things like that. So I am glad that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes. So what did your analysis cover with regards to this election?
Yeah, so, our job at the Citizens Research Council is to look at a proposal or look at an issue and provide the facts on it. So looking at the pros and the cons, specific to these ballot proposals, we took the ballot language and we dissected that for what it was. What is this ballot asking voters, right? And so for each ballot proposal, we looked at the issue and we did our research and we provided the pros and cons of every ballot proposal. And that is what the report, the analysis that's on the Detroit Bureau provides.
Okay, so in doing the analysis, the research on each proposal, were you shocked by some of the research findings?
I not necessarily shocked. I think that I think in this industry and in policy research and policy analysis, you're never necessarily shocked about whatever sort of initiatives or proposals that voters may want to vote on, and not necessarily shocked either about the research, because a lot of the time, certain ballot proposals are kind of running themes of things that are going on throughout the country, right? So say even Proposal E with decriminalizing entheogenic plants or the reparations task force, these are all efforts that you're actually seeing happening throughout the country right now. And so, you know, looking into these ballot proposals, there wasn't necessarily anything that shocked us or shocked me. But it was interesting taking a deeper dive and seeing how those specific ballot proposals would affect Detroit specifically.
Okay, so let's go then. Let's go to the breakdown of looking at the pros and the cons of each proposal, okay?
Yep.
So let's go to Prop E, Proposal E. What were the pros and or the cons with regards to that proposal?
Yeah, so before we dive into that, let's just talk about what Prop E would even do. So with Prop E now passing, and it actually, let me bring up the exact numbers so that we know by how much it passed. So Proposal E was approved by voters, and it passed by 61% of the vote, which is a pretty decisive margin. Proposal E, now that it's enacted, or now that it passed, would enact a Detroit ordinance to decriminalize to the fullest extent permitted under Michigan law the personal possession and therapeutic use of entheogenic plants. And what are entheogenic plants? Entheogenic plants are psychoactive substances that induce alterations in perception, mood, consciousness, cognition, or behavior for the purposes of therapeutic use, spiritual development, recreational use, etc. And some of the more, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, break it down to layman terms, what you're talking about.
Yeah, yep, I was getting there. So
Okay.
basically, in popular culture, you would know them to be as psychedelic plants. Some of the more popular entheogenic plants are like magic mushrooms, ayahuasca, and DMT. So Proposal E decriminalizes the use and possession of these psychedelics in Detroit. However, it does not legalize the use and possession of these psychedelics. And of course, distribution is still illegal. So it just decriminalizes them, which means that law enforcement, if they run into a Detroit resident that is using magic mushrooms or is possessing them, they probably would just write them a ticket or something like that. What are some?
Let's stay there for just 1 second, Dr. Osmond. Would the person have to have some type of documentation that they can be in possession of, you know, these psychedelic plants, or, you know, the terminology that you're using?
Yeah, great question. So they wouldn't, and it is because these substances are not yet legalized or even medicinally legalized, right? So they're still illegal technically, just like, for example, it's still illegal to run a stop sign, or it's still illegal to speed. If a cop were to pull you over for that, you're more than likely not going to jail. You're just going to get a ticket, maybe some points on your license, right? Same kind of concept. So you wouldn't need, there's no documentation or anything like that in terms of one's ability to have magic mushrooms, for example. But if a police officer were to catch a Detroit resident, their mandate is basically to make that the lowest law enforcement priority. So, you know, don't ping any criminal charges on that resident, write them a ticket, or refer them to an educational treatment program or something like that.
Okay.
Yep. So some pros and cons, let's get into that. So in terms of pros, there's a lot of promising research that shows that these psychedelic plants provide medicinal and therapeutic benefits for individuals that are dealing with substance use disorders, addiction disorder, mental health issues, PTSD. Therapeutic uses of these plants have shown to improve the psychological health in patients whose conditions are extremely treatment resistant. And when I say treatment resistant, that means resistant to more conventional means of treatment that we see in our healthcare industry right now, such as either prescribing certain pharmaceutical drugs or going through another mode of treatment that doctors have individuals struggling with those issues right now. So they are said to be a vital innovation for numerous struggling citizens that deal with all these various mental health issues and substance abuse and addiction disorders. It is important to note that this promising research for medicinal use is based on limited research. And the reason why is that entheogenic plants, these psychedelics, are still categorized as a Schedule I drug on the federal level, just like marijuana is, and just like heroin is, right? Which makes it harder for scientists or researchers to be able to study them as much as they would want to. However, there is research that has been coming out and that started all the way, that started in 2018 when the FDA basically designated these entheogenic plants, these psychedelics, as a breakthrough therapy categorization, which basically indicates that yes, they're illegal on the federal level, but we see something there and we are authorizing institutions to be able to study these plants because we do see some promise here in terms of providing alternative treatment for citizens. So even Johns Hopkins has an institution that is specifically focused on studying the effects of magic mushrooms and other entheogenic plants to help people with like depression, PTSD, etc. On the other hand, while entheogenic plants have a lot of potential for medicinal use, it is still important to note that when left unrestricted, when people just kind of have the ability to use them and only get applied a small penalty for using or possessing, there is risk of abuse of these kind of drugs, which if people don't know how to use these substances, whether it's through a medical professional or someone that knows how to administer these substances to a patient therapeutically, people can have bad trips, right? So without proper attention to setting and preparation, people can have bad trips that can often be accompanied with terrifying experiences that can even sometimes have lasting effects. One survey of people who reported having a bad trip found that nearly 8% of them had to seek out psychiatric help afterward. So there is still much to learn about the benefits and potential risks of these substances, not to mention the consequences of unrestricted use. And I also wanted to mention one more thing. The ballot language is really specific about decriminalizing the therapeutic use of these psychedelic plants. And it's important to note that municipal decriminalization, which is what Proposal E did, it only decriminalized it in the city of Detroit, would not authorize medical professionals to be able to prescribe these psychedelic plants in treatment use. And the reason is because it would have to be decriminalized statewide for that to be possible. So I think that when you look into the ballot language, that is something to pay attention to as how people may interpret that. People may interpret that as now having that ability to go to their medical provider and be able to have entheogenic plants as like an alternative means of treatment, but that's not the case. That's still not able to happen. It has to be decriminalized on the state level for that to happen.
Great breakdown. That was really good, especially that latter part, because if people aren't reading to interpret the correct content of the proposal, then they're left to their own imaginations and or assumptions as to what it is, and then we'll believe that and we'll definitely if stopped by the police, be emphatic about, you know, I have a right to have this. So
Right.
it was passed on the ballot. I've got a right to have it. My doctor
Right.
even says it, and so on and so forth. So what about Prop R?
So Prop R is a city council initiated ballot proposal. Prop R, now that it passes, compels the Detroit City Council to establish a reparations task force that will make recommendations for housing and economic development programs that address historical discrimination against Detroit's Black community. This is wonderful because this is an indication from voters of the city of Detroit that they are in support of such an initiative. Why I say that is because City Council actually had the ability to create this task force without even putting this question on the ballot. So they did so to gauge the interest of residents and to really show the kind of public support that there is for such an initiative. And let me pull up the numbers again. This proposal passed overwhelmingly. Actually, more people voted on Proposal R than they even did for the mayor. And it passed with 80% of the vote. So that's wonderful. This ballot proposal is pretty cut and dry. You know, this proposal requires City Council to create this reparations task force, and that's really all it does, right? So it's important to know that it doesn't extend any further than that. What that means is that it doesn't ensure any legislative or fiscal action towards enacting any of the recommendations that this task force might make. In terms of the composition and the body of this task force too, this proposal doesn't define any of that. That's going to be the job of City Council to do that. So City Council is going to be the body that will establish how this task force is created, who will be on it, what it takes to be on it, how long this task force will be around for, what deadlines they have, so on and so forth. So, you know, this task force has one specific directive, and that is to make short, medium, and long-term recommendations for the city to specifically address the creation of generational wealth and to boost economic mobility and opportunity for Black community.
You know, this is great. This is great news, and I'll tell you why. Because City Council has about 5 new members that will be taking seat, and I'm not sure if all of the members are, as old school would say, in the pocket of the mayor, because there has been some contention that has been there, especially with the Charter Revision Commission, which in some of this language sounds very similar and familiar that's within these proposals. And we know that did not pass. So here is another opportunity for Detroit citizens to really have a voice in their city government. So that's absolutely awesome. But go ahead, I just had to interject that there.
No, that's absolutely right. And I mean, in terms of, we talk about pros and cons of each ballot proposal. I can't really necessarily think of any cons of this ballot proposal, you know, aside from the fact that, like I said, it is very specific, you know, in terms of implementing a potential program or financing a program or anything past this task force. That is not going to be something that is done with this ballot proposal. Nevertheless, it does take this conversation from talk to action in terms of truly moving forward with this issue of reparations for Black residents in the city of Detroit, and moving for being an example for the rest of the country, as we have joined a growing list of cities that are moving forward with this, with reparations, with Evanston being the only city that I know as of now that has an actual program that is right now happening, right? And that is focused on housing development. And so it will be very interesting to see what this task force is able to come up with. And it is, you know, I think it's also very fitting because our late U.S. Congressman John Conyers was the representative in Congress that would bring this reparations bill every year as he was alive in his term in office. And so I think it's very fitting that Detroit has now joined this growing list of cities that is moving forward with this issue.
I'm so excited about this particular proposal because you mentioned generational wealth. And when people hear reparations, I think that there is a thought of only money. You know, let's figure out how much money we're going to send each particular generation or family, but it's not all about that. As you said, we're talking about housing affordability, home ownership affordability. And this particular council has the opportunity to really be the, lack of a better word, force to move things forward, because it has been reported, we've reported it quite a bit from different guests, that Detroit is being parceled out, as if the elected officials and local governments are ripping Detroit apart and then parceling it out to people who don't even live in the city of Detroit or the state of Michigan. And so it's leaving the citizens, the actual citizens, depleted and traumatized. So
Yeah.
Proposal R is great. Let's go to proposal Prop S, because as you say, I don't even see no con with that. There's no negative to proposal R. So what about Prop S?
So Prop S was a voter-initiated city charter amendment. Prop S is the one ballot proposal that did not pass, but it was quite close. Proposal S lost by 53% of the vote. And so that it was quite a close race for that ballot proposal. So Proposal S was a voter-initiated petition to amend the Detroit City Charter. What it wanted to do was to remove the current restriction on initiated appropriations in the city charter to allow citizens with the ability to enact ordinances for the appropriation of money. And so if Proposal S were to have been adopted, voters would be able to petition for the enactment of city ordinances that include the appropriation of money. Citizens would have had an expanded power in the say of where city spending.
Oh my God, Dr. Osmond, how could that have not passed? What happened? What happened? What happened?
So I think that the intent of this proposal was in the right place, but there were a lot of issues with this proposal had it have passed. There are a lot of legal questions that would have had to be answered that would have ultimately been answered in the courts. There were a lot of, because the issue with Proposal S was that it was not clear how Proposal S would have fit in with current provisions that are in the charter right now, right? So that pertains to how this amendment would have fit in current law as it relates to the timing of elections, the budget process, the prioritization of city spending, and the powers that are granted to certain branches of government. So, you know, while it's true that it would have empowered citizens to have been able to have even more control of decisions that are made in government, and in this case, specifically how money is spent, it is also true that that power could be used by any group of citizens, right? So the initiative is the tool for the grassroots, right? And it is a tool that the grassroots can use in the most democratic spirit. But it is also a tool that is open to the wealthy and business elite to be able to also use that. And for example, spearhead an initiative that would fund a personal project of theirs, right? So yes, it is true that Proposal S, if it had passed, could have been an alternative to, say, for example, fund a reparations program. That is absolutely true. Say in the hypothetical, if city council, if this task force were to have been made and it makes its recommendations and it comes up with a reparations program and they're stuck on a method of funding or whatever the case may be, or if city council doesn't take that extra step and implement some sort of appropriations for a reparations program, that Proposal S could have been used as a tool to basically gather signatures, petition, and potentially make a voter-initiated ordinances to appropriate money for that reparations program. That's true. but that's not the, it can be, anyone can use that tool, right? So it could have been somebody, wealthy business elite from outside of the city who has absolutely no idea what priorities or needs the city of Detroit has, but sees an avenue to be able to fund a personal development project that they want to make. You can also use Proposal S to do that. So that's kind of like, these are kind of the trade-offs that you have to consider when thinking about direct democracy, when thinking about tools that allow citizens to be so directly involved in the decisions that they elect their representatives to make.
Wow, I'm glad that you really cleared that up, because without having proper context of Proposal S, then there will be those that are very disappointed that it did not pass. But it had a close running, so that means that maybe that education needs to be up, lifted up on that, more education and understanding. And then maybe we'll see the language somewhere else down the line, that the citizens can lend their voice to something else that is similar to this. I know the Detroit Revision Commission worked on this and went around the city for like a couple of years, almost 3 years, trying to get the voices of the citizens put on paper, so that those in elected offices can understand where their hearts were, where they're thinking, and their needs. So not to say that, even though it was defeated, not to say that it can recirculate in some type of way, shape, form, or manner. So Dr. Osmond, before I let you go, and I keep calling you that because you have earned that title.
Thank you.
Really quick, within about 60 seconds, because I know I got to let you go, what are some of the changes do you see forthcoming for Detroit? What should we be looking at?
Yeah, so I think, I think for there was a large turnover in the Detroit City Council. A lot of new, fresh faces, 6 new members to the 9-member City Council body. Many of them I know are more progressive candidates that got elected into office, fresh faces. So I think that we're gonna see fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, and a new sort of relationship that we'll see pan out between the executive and the legislature. I think that, I think Duggan with his 3rd term is going to continue to focus on taking care of blight and the projects that he's been working on. And so, I do hope that we see more of a prioritization towards continued neighborhood development and taking care of residents that don't necessarily live in the 7.2 square mile downtown area, and really focusing on providing the kind of city services and initiating the kind of ordinances that need to happen for residents in the neighborhoods of the city of Detroit to also feel the kind of resurgence that the city is going through. So I do think there are a lot of exciting things that are coming for the city. And with the ARPA funding, which is one-time funding, it does place us in a good position to be able to spend and prioritize spending on issues that we may not have been able to without this surplus of money that's coming into the city. And so, yeah, I think, yeah.
I'm smiling because, you're being so politically correct. But I'm going to put it
It's my job to just look at the policy and not the politics. So,
I know, I'm just teasing. But I'm just going to add to what you're saying and kind of wrap it up, is that there are some very outspoken and courageous men and women who have had the opportunity, and they are stepping into these seats in city council. And I will agree with you that there's going to be some fresh new ideas, but there's going to be some bold and courageous moves and things that have gotten away with before. Like, I want to know where the $600,000 of those, the money, where is that money? $600,000. Nobody has been able to find that. That's a lot of money that's untraced, that citizens lost their homes, because they were overtaxed. so very little amounts, $500, $300, $1,000, and so on and so forth. And then people just came in and swooped up those properties. So I want to know what the city is going to do about this, if the city council will even revisit that. And I want to know where the money is. I think the citizens need to know. So you can't tell me $600,000 just disappeared. You don't know where it is. And what are you doing about helping those homeowners that lost their homes to that? And there's some other issues. But so we will be looking very closely at this particular council coming in to make sure that things are done fairly.
I wanted to add to, sorry to interject, but I wanted to add to on that $600 million over taxation. I had just written a piece about 3 weeks ago that is investigating it into that even more. So that's the kind of work that the Detroit Bureau at the Citizens Research Council pumps out. So all of these important issues that are very important to Detroiters, we may not be looking at it from a political standpoint, but we are investigating, we are looking at these issues from a policy standpoint and asking the kind of relevant questions that need to be asked that in the political community, they can address that. And so, my report that I'm working on now too does look also into Detroit's property tax. And with that being said, I want your listeners to know that if they even have any ideas as to what kind of issues that they would like us to look into at the Detroit Bureau, we are here. We want to know. So let us know. You can contact us on www.crcmish.org. And yeah, thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Dr. Osmond. Truly appreciate you here. We want to hear, definitely going to stay connected to you because I want to know your findings. I want to know your findings on that. So we want to be the first ones to talk to you with regards to what you find out with regards to that. So $600 million, that property tax that was assessed to the citizens of Detroit. Thank you so much for being with us. You have lent so much education to these propositions, Prop E, R, and S, as well as what you do. So thank you. Continue to do that, and we will definitely stay connected with you.
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you.
All right, listen, everyone. That was Dr. Esmat Ishaq Osmond. I said it correctly. And he is the Research Council expert on all policy matters related to Detroit. I said all policy matters related to Detroit. So make sure that you review this segment for the information that he shared, as well as you can get in touch with him, crcmish.org. You can get in touch with him. We're going to take a quick break. I got something special for you before we wrap up. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back, do that special, and then we'll segue off.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference remain unresolved.
Police are saying the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
Before we segue off of urban interests, we want to pay our respects and prayers and thoughts to the family of a giant in the Detroit African American community has joined her ancestors. We're talking about Ms. Barbara Rose Collins. She made her transition last week. But see, here's a clip of the documentary that our very own Madison Sonwabo Martin is working on. And so we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to see this, what he's working on. And then we're going to come back and have a couple of words from our very own Sonwabo.
My name is Specialist Maccabee Makunda Najuma Fela, otherwise known as Barbara Rose Collins. Past Congresswoman, Councilwoman, State Representative, School Board member. And we're standing outside of the home I was born in, a home I came from the hospital to, on Leland Street. And 6 generations of my family have lived in this home. I heard Stokely Carmichael speak at the shrine before I joined the shrine. And he said, it's time for you to move back to your old community and give the young boys and girls a role model to follow. And I moved back home. And I've been here ever since. I guess 67, 68. I move out, I move back because this is my home. And I love it. And I love Leland Street. Except that Leland Street, there was houses everywhere. I own property all the way to the corner, over 9 or 12 lots. I'd rather have the people here. I retired from city council about 10 years ago, 2010. I didn't run anymore. And I'm very upset what I see now. I see malaise. I see that my people don't seem to care that we've lost the city that Mayor Coleman Young rebuilt. And now they've got condos being built in Old Black Bottom and Paradise Valley that cost $800,000 and $900,000 to move in. And I don't know any of my people who could get a mortgage. I can't get a mortgage for $800,000 or $900,000. So, I'm upset about that. And I'm 82. I'm too old to get out there. But somebody's got to get out there and bring some passion back to our people. We got to get fired up. We've got to get excited. We've got to rebuild our city for us. Because other people who left our city and didn't care anything about the city or us have come back and taken over property, raised our water rates so that a family can't afford to pay a water bill every month, raised the taxes so that a family that's lived in a home all their lives can't afford the property taxes. It's time for us to bring some passion. I think the Shrine of the Black Madonna, the Black Slate, we got to get fired up. We got to go to work. We got to change things around. We built this city from the beginning, from over 300 years ago, and we cannot let people push us out. We cannot let people move from Livonia into Detroit a month before they register to run for mayor. We cannot let people get millions of dollars from the federal government to tear down houses and give them to their friends to $50,000 to tear down a raggedy house. We can't afford that, and we can't allow that. So it's time for us to get fired up, to have some passion, and to go to work.
Hi.
All right, Ms. Barbara Rose Collins, definitely an advocate and definitely one who helped to build the city of Detroit and to keep things in order. And so we're going to bring our very own Sonwabo in to talk with us about his dear friend, as well as the vibrancy of this honorable woman. Hello there, Sonwabo.
Hey, how you doing, Angela?
I am
so
doing
good to
great. How are you?
Chance to holler at you. Great, great.
So listen, our condolences to the family of Miss Barbara Rose Collins, but as well as yourself, because you were, pretty close to her. You knew her well, her passion and her heart. So, tell us, some of your thoughts, what you've been thinking here. This documentary, the starting of it is very informational, informative. Thank you for sharing it with us. So what are some other words that you have with regards to Miss Collins?
Well, I knew her as a member of church, the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, known as the Shrine of the Black Madonna. And being a Maccabee, she was also a Maccabee herself. She was known as Specialist Makunda Najuma Fele. And she was a Maccabee warrant officer appointed specifically by our holy patriot. And she mentioned that she was a former congresswoman, and it goes unsaid about all the work that she did, to lift up this community from, the halls of Congress, and that she was a Michigan state legislator, and the many things that this community benefited from her efforts. And, and in addition to that, being a Detroit school board member, she was a Detroit City Council person that was weaved into the legacy of this city, and one of the things that we talked about, I used to be assigned to escort her, as part of the security of Maccabees, to at the church, especially when it's time church is over, to take her to a vehicle, and we had a chance to talk, and so we talked on many occasions. And one of the things that she mentioned was that she was all good, and promised that after this COVID thing passed over, we would sit down and work on a documentary, about the history of Detroit and the politics involved there, and how Detroit was seen through the eyes of the city council. And we would talk about national politics and the things that happened to impact our city, and her involvement in that, and some of the battles that she had to fight, in Congress and in the Michigan State Legislature that go on today for our people. And one of the things that she was saying in her in that presentation there, we happen to have she hosted a Black Slate get together or party at her home, for the candidates, to come by and to receive their endorsements. She would talk, we would sit down and talk about the things that she was encouraging, the passion, and she was upset about the gentrification that was happening to Detroit, and certainly the status of our population in Detroit. She just couldn't understand the complacency that she saw, and and she was very outspoken about that, and that was going to be our focus of the things that we talk about. So just to make a long story short, in terms of just making my few comments, from my perspective, I saw that she was like a guru in our community. She had the knowledge, the insight, and the understanding of what's going on in this world of politics in Detroit. And I always said that when you lose a guru, a library has burned. I think that's an African proverb. And so, we have to say that as Black media, we have an obligation. We have as we say, a sacred trust. We have a responsibility, to cultivate and capture, the knowledge and the direction and the oral history, and document that history, so that we can better prepare our children and our grandchildren, for a future that they have to face. And and I think in her comments, and that was the last interview I could get from her, but in her closing comments, she was saying, as a song went, that we built this. And so we've got an obligation to maintain it, develop it, and make it better than it was than we found it. And so that's my closing comments on it, is that I thank her for the opportunity to just know her for that short period of time that I did, in the capacity that I was as a servant to her.
All right. Thank you for even bringing her presence to us. And that's what, her legacy is living, because she poured into you, having those conversations, and then the many others that she touched along the way. And so it is up to us as we encounter her presence, even through the documentary, that we take that and that we incorporate it and that we do something with it, because, you know, time is of the essence. We're in this season, not a calendar season, but a season of a history in life. Things have changed so drastically, and it is calling and demanding for bold and courageous action. So thank you so much, Sonwabo, for that documentary about Barbara Rose Collins. And with that, we're going to wrap up Urban Interest. That's a great way to do it. We thank everyone for listening and tuning in. Connect with us on urban.interest, that's urban.interest, or on our DetroitIPTV.com YouTube channel, or catch us on our UIN broadcast network. Listen, we will come back with you on Wednesday. But in the meantime, have a great day. It's beautiful outside. Catch some of this sun before it kind of segues in the back. You know, daylight savings time. We're here. We fell backwards, so you get an extra hour of sleep. So take full advantage of the time while you have it. Have a great day.